Okay. Construct a truth table for this one. Now this one I picked this one just because it had a little extra going on with the parentheses. What I know, the parentheses sometimes can throw you off. Don't let it throw you off. Still find the pieces that you need. Do the parentheses first and then do what's on the outside. Sometimes that's a lot easier. So it looks like I need a not Q. So we're going to do that, right? And then I'm going to do a column for this piece. Okay, so I'm going to do a column for that piece. So that's P and not Q. And I'll show you another way that people sometimes do these columns. And then the last thing I need is the not P and not Q. See how I'm saying that out loud? We know that this is the negation. We know that this is the conjunction, and that's also negation, but it's easier to read it as not P and not Q. Okay, so let me copy this table because I'm going to show you two different ways that people kind of do these, and you just kind of pick which one works for you. Okay, so I'm going to paste it down here and I'll show you two different ways, but you get the same answer. So it just depends on how you want to do it. And to be honest, I won't need this column. I don't want to say people, how once you get really comfortable with these, you'll see how it's easy to just where you don't need all the columns. But if you like to see all the steps, there's no shame in writing it out like this. And then I'll show you how once you get really good at it, people do it this way, and then they just circle their final column. So, okay, let's keep it moving. We're looking at not Q. Okay, so we're going to look at this column. So let's do that. So true becomes false, false becomes true, true becomes false, and false becomes true. Okay, true becomes false, false becomes true, true becomes false, false becomes true. And now we need to do P and not Q, right? So we're going to look at P and not Q. So true and false, that's false, right? True and true, that's true. False and false, that's false. And then false and true, that's false. So far, so good. Look, I'm checking myself again. True and false, that's false. True and true, that's true. False and false. Yep. And false and true. False. Okay, cool beans. So now we already know this part, right? That's this column. Now we just need to apply the tilde. Okay, you get that? We already did this column. That's here. So now we just need to apply the tilde. I'll pick a different color. We'll pick gold. So the negation of false, right? The negation of false is going to be true. The negation of true is going to be false. The negation of false is going to be true. And the negation of false is going to be true. Easy peasy. That's what my chair says that all the time. And so now it's kind of stuck with me. And so I'm like, oh, easy peasy. So let me show you what, like if you don't like writing all the columns, here's what they do when they don't want to write all the columns. They do it piece by piece. So they'll rewrite the T and they'll write it underneath it. And you're like, where does that come from? That comes from here. See, that's P. Now I'm going to do the negation of Q. So I'm going to look at that column to get this one. And then they'll say, oh, okay. They're going to say that's false, true, false, true, right? I took the negation of that, negation, 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 right? And then they'll do this middle, which is the conjunction, which means and. So then they'll do that. So let me do that one in green. So true. So you're going to say true and false. So see why it's easier? You don't have to come back over here. Now you just use what's in here. So true and false. That's going to be false. And then true and true. True. False and false. False. False and true. False. And then the very last column is this negation. but you notice we're doing the negation here because this was the last step we did. So if I were to write this off, we did this first, we did this second, we did this third, and so now this is our last step. So some people do that and then you keep up with what column you're working with. So clearly up to you. So this will be the negation, that'll be true, that'll be false, that'll be true, that'll be true, and then you highlight your answer and say, okay, that's my answer, and see it matches what's up here. So one half dozen the other. You can do the columns, okay, or do each piece just from, and I mean, number it. It don't hurt nothing unless you're trying to save paper. It don't hurt nothing because you don't want to forget what you're looking at to get to the last step. Okay, so makes sense.